Let me know when you're ready. Just say yes.
Welcome to the Apartment Rockstar podcast. Join the apartment rockstar Robert Martinez, a real estate industry icon and two-time national independent renter owner of the year, as he interviews the best in multifamily apartment investing and management. Follow his journey to 10,000 units and beyond.
Robert, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, how are you, man? I am so sorry for being late, but I'm ready to go now.
Man, it's such a pleasure to have you. And yeah, man, you're what you're doing is so successful. The apartment rockstar, CEO of Rockstar Capital. I've seen you, around different, Gary V, Grant Cardone, a lot of awesome big players in this space. And yeah, man, I'm just super excited to dive in and just kind of hear about everything you're up to, man.
Thank you very much. Those are great mentors of mine. And if you guys don't know who they are, look them up. They will get you up in the morning. They will go and motivate you. I did have the chance to visit with Gary twice, once about 3 years ago, and then once about a year ago yesterday. And then I got a chance to visit with Grant back in July of 2018.
Nice.
That was a fantastic trip.
Yeah, I had him on the show. I had him and Elena on right before the new year. Just the energy of that guy. It's just
it's not just that he believes in himself, and I think that's the thing that everybody needs to understand is that, all your goals are achievable. You just got to wire your brain to believe that, you're your own worst critic. You don't need it. You don't need to overvalue anybody. You need to start valuing yourself, and listen to your own opinion, your thoughts, and ask yourself, what are you achievable of? And you'll make it happen. And what I've learned is that if you keep repeating it over and over again, and you start telling your team that this is what we're going to do, you figure out a way to do it. It just happens. I don't know if you just sleep at night and the idea comes to you, or it just, everything is going in one direction. Everything just, waves out in that area. And next thing you know, you start figuring out new ideas, new like innovation come around, and it just happens, and so the bigger the goal, I actually believe the more likelihood you are of achieving it, and the further you're going to go.
Yeah. Would you say that most people, the lack of belief is what stops them?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's the opinion of their parents. It's the opinion of their friends, which fuels that lack of belief. You want to assume, right, that your mom and your dad, you want to assume that your friends, even your best friends, have your best interest in mind. But as humans, man, we're all competitive.
Yeah.
You're all competitive. I've never received negative feedback from somebody that was doing better than me. It was always somebody doing a little less than me, and so you really have to learn to believe in yourself more than anybody else, because at the end of the day, it's only you that you got. One of these days, mom and dad are gonna go, and it's sad. And so everybody should take advantage of that time that they're here. I got a great chance. I was with my mom this week. We went to go look at some apartment deals down in South Texas, where I'm from. I go, hey mom, I'm flying into to the airport. I'm going to be there just for like 6 hours. Can you drive us around? And it was like me and four others. She's like, yes. And she got to see what I do and all that. So that was fun. So my point is, take advantage of that time and make sure that you spend the time with your parents. But at the end of the day, you only have yourself. You were with yourself when you were born. You'll be the only one there when you die. Just remember that. You owe it to yourself to be as great or as good as you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I love that. So let's take it back a little bit. So a lot of times, as I was saying before we started recording, everybody sees you where you're at now, and they think, oh, wow, he's successful. He's doing well. But I always like to know what happened before. What was it like for you growing up? Because there's always so many lessons in that journey, whatever it may be. What was growing up for you? What was your biggest struggle? And what was your childhood like?
I'm a big guy. I think adversity fuels you, but I don't blame anything. I don't put any kind of overvaluation on anything. I think you make it come out of yourself. I'm 45 years old today. I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley, which is deep South Texas. In the area that I grew up at, it's like 80% Hispanic, 20%, everything else. And my dad worked at a local fast food company, a major one here in Texas called Whataburger. And he did that for 40 years. And like everybody else, I wanted to go work with my dad. I thought I would own a store one day, and dad and I would run it together. And then one day he said to me, "Don't do this. You're better than this. You're better than I am." And I don't know if that's true or not. My dad was like a valedictorian of his school, and he was just super smart. But you know what? He didn't get the backing from the people around him. And I don't think he went as far as he could have. He was very good at what he did. He was a fantastic people person, very generous man. But I think if he had found somebody to believe in him, specifically his family, he would have gone further. I give a lot of credit to my mom because my mom's a go-getter. My mom is a big fan of mine, and she thinks that I can do anything, and she thinks she can do anything, right? Whether or not she can or not, she believes it. And so I got a lot of my confidence from my mom. I got a lot of my natural intelligence or whatever from my dad. He was very book smart. But I went to a state college, Texas A&M, and I got an engineering degree. And I was taught, like everybody else, to go to school and get good grades. Blue collar, middle class family. My mom worked at a factory, Levi's factory down in the valley, and then they closed down, moved to Mexico. Again, my dad worked at Whataburger for 40 plus years, and so I came from a blue collar family. Went to school like everybody else to get a good degree, so I can support myself and maybe whatever future family. I have an engineering degree, and I went out to the workforce. I didn't have a 4.0 as an engineer, so I went to the sales side of engineering, which meant that I knew a little bit about it, so I could be deadly because I had a little bit of a personality. So I was basically out there selling, $500,000 piece of equipment to guys with PhDs. So I didn't have to fully technically understand it. I just had to be able to present it and get the guys to like me, right? And so that was my upbringing. But as any good salesman know, you want to kill what you're going to eat at night, which means you want to be commission based. You want to rely on yourself. And I did that for the better part of 10 years. And as corporate America happens, there's mergers, there's acquisitions, there's changing of management. And after management changing 2 or 3 times, each time they would do it, they would adjust my commission plan. And so I would sell more every year and I would make less. And then a new management comes up. I would sell more, I would make less. And after that happened enough times, I realized that I didn't have control of my financial future. My employer did, because I gave them that control. I wasn't entrepreneurial enough. If you go back to the turn of the century, everybody owned a farm or everybody was very entrepreneurial. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution came around and where they needed labor, and they promised, 401ks, and they promised all kinds of benefits to lure in the working class and kept them away from working on themselves. And I think that's what happened, to where we are today. But back to my story, I realized I didn't have control of my financial future. And I wanted it back. And so I wanted to go out and try to find a way to supplement my income. I just had our first child, and I wanted to come up with a $400 to $600 that I needed to pay for childcare costs, right? Because my wife and I were still going to work together. We both had 6-figure jobs. We wanted to continue to work. Neither one of us wanted to stay home, so we needed childcare costs. And as I'm looking for childcare costs, I stumbled into real estate. And I found a real estate club here in Houston that had a little bit of a name. And I walked in there thinking, I'm going to buy single family houses, 2, 3 of these. I'm going to keep them rented. I'm going to follow their plan. I'm going to make anywhere from $400 to $600, maybe $1,000 a month. And that would be enough to supplement my income because I was going to keep my day job, the one that paid me 6 figures. There was a 2-day program that I went to. Saturday was everything you wanted to know about how to own a single family house. And then Sunday was everything you wanted to know about how to own an apartment complex. And that's when the light turned on. And I'm like, wow, I can do this. I can really do really well at this, because there's a big difference between single family investing and multifamily investing. And it's what I call the magic formula. Every dollar that you add on multifamily investing creates $17 of new valuation. Just because you get $1 more in rent on a single family house doesn't change the value of that house, right? It's based on the comps. In multifamily investing, if you can raise $1, you increase the valuation by $17. So if you were to raise rent by $10 on a 200 unit complex over the course of a year, a $10 raise, right? Pretty achievable. That creates $400,000 of new valuation on a 200 unit complex. And once I learned the magic formula, I was like, wow, that's where I want to go. I joined that program in January of 2007. I bought my first investment by December of 2007. And by April of 2008, I was turning in my resignation letter to corporate America and going full-time as an apartment owner.
Did you go through any hurdles during the recession, or did you
it's really, well, the best thing for me is that, today's economy is very good for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
it's created what I call a lot of peacetime generals. When the harbor's full, all boats float. And so you got a lot of guys that are syndicating deals and they're raising equity and it's in a rising market. That's not going to last. In fact, you can see little things right now. We're seeing rent resistance. We're seeing things. Well, I got involved in '07, which was right before the recession. So that deal that I bought in December of '07, we went really well for about a year. And then '08, the end of '08 comes around and the market starts tanking. And it became a survival of the fittest kind of thing. So I was born, my real estate career was born in the recession. And you know what? Having had that sales background, which I think is an amazing trait that I was very blessed to have, kept my company afloat. In fact, we kept buying because I knew that if I could sell a $500,000 piece of equipment to a guy with a PhD, certainly I could teach my leasing staff how to rent a $500 apartment to a guy making $30,000 a year. And that's exactly what happened. I was very good at sales. I taught my girls, my leasing team, how to sell, how to ask suggestive questions, how to sell our unique value proposition, how to find out as much as you can from the prospect and still staying quiet. We did really well during the recession. We made a ton of money. I didn't lose a single dollar. All my money that I had in the stock market, I pulled it out in '07 because I went full time in real estate. Didn't lose a dollar.
Wow. Man, I've talked to so many people who just tanked in '08. It's crazy.
Maybe in the single family market.
Yeah,
but not in the multifamily market.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're very fortunate in Texas. We were the last one in, first one out of every recession. We have a lot of things going for us. There's a huge migration here. So we went through the least amount of the recession, but we still struggled. And it was a survival of the fittest. I still put people into the ground. It was either them or us. And we survived, and I think it's all about service. I think it's about sales, and I think it's about reputation. I think the next recession, when you survive it, it's going to be because of brand. And so we're focusing a tremendous amount on our brand and our reputation.
Man, it's so true. So let's break down sales a little bit because, say you strip everything away, you lose everything, like survival of the fittest. At the end of the day, that's going to be the thing that separates everybody, right? Is you're able to influence people to take on what you believe with your energy and sell, right? What makes somebody a good salesperson versus somebody that's not? I mean, what differentiates them? Like, how does somebody?
There's a couple of things. I think number one, you have to believe in your product. You have to believe in your company. If you're selling a product you don't believe in, it's going to show. It's going to show real quick. So attitude, heart is everything. I surround myself with heart. I don't have to have the sharpest tool in the shed next to me. I just have to know that she's not going to quit or he's not going to quit. And it's very easy for me to figure out who's who. And so when you surround yourself with that and you go to battle, they ain't going to quit on you. So that's number one. They're going to listen, right? They're going to absorb what you're teaching them on how to sell. Number two, I try to give everybody the benefit of the relationship, 51% or greater. I try to find out what my team needs, what's important to them, and see what I can do to give back to them. Because I believe that if they have heart and they know that I'm here for them, I think they're going to fight hard for me. And they're going to adopt our company culture, and they're going to believe in the brand, and they're going to push harder. We spent a lot of time and effort and money on building our brand. I think we're one of the rising brands in this space. You know me, you know my story, right? You wouldn't have known about me 3-4 years ago. We spent a lot of effort putting that, so you did get to know who I am. We've got a lot of great accomplishments that were born out of heart, born out of making sure that we outwork the competition. And now it's our time to sell that story.
Yeah, that's so important at the core, to have people that believe and actually see the vision and actually buy into it.
Yep.
And that all comes down to leadership.
I appreciate that. It does. It goes down to leadership, and it goes back to repeating your goals again. Remember we talked about that? Brands, say them over again and again. Make sure everybody understands it. Like right now, I've got the team. Everybody bought the Be Obsessed or Be Average book by Grant Cardone. We bought that in January, and some of the team is already reading it, and they're changing their attitude on stuff, right? It's making sure that they understand what it takes to be successful, and number one, it takes a belief, and number two, saying those goals often, because nobody wants to be embarrassed, right? The more you say them, people associate you with those goals. Our goal right now is to get to 10,000 units, and everybody in this company knows that message. We're going to get to 10,000 units and then some, but really secretly inside, My goal is much harder, much higher, much higher. That's just the one that I repeat on the surface.
What do you do for the balance of, because a lot of people, I don't know. So, some people kind of go hard in one area, but they don't have a lot of balance as far as, what's your spiritual practice, or how do you kind of ground yourself? Do you have different things that you kind of like, people do yoga, people do all kinds of things to balance out their energies. Is there anything that you do specifically to keep you kind of grounded?
I talk a lot.
Yeah.
I talk a lot to all my people around me. My video team knows my goals. They know what we're trying to do. I tell them all the time. They hear me whenever they're around me. They hear the same thing over and over. My corporate team, the rest of the corporate team, the regionals, to the VP, to the COO, to the CIO. Everybody, I talk to them every day. I can't be down because somebody is saying something to get me going. I mean, we just got a contract and a new deal just a few minutes ago. I'm pumped up. That's a big reason why I was a little late, so I apologize, right? I didn't expect that. I didn't know it was coming in this morning, and then I got off that call and go, okay, what's next? Where's the other guy? Call that other guy that on the other deal we toured. So surrounding yourself, right, with as much positivity as you can, and so many wheels in motion going on, it keeps you going. I don't know what your balance should be. Everybody's got to find their own balance because everybody's wired differently. Everybody grows up with different things. I was my own inspiration for a long time until I grew the team and until they matured to be able to be an inspiration for me, And so I think it goes back to just surrounding yourself with as much positivity as you can.
Yeah. I mean, having that, how much do you think having your mom on your side and believing in you has helped you over the years? Because there's so many parents that, when you start to do something, they may doubt you because they want you to be safe. They want you to take the easy route, how powerful has that been of her encouragement with you though? Because a lot of people don't have that.
100%. I was very blessed that I had a really strong parental situation at home. My parents both stayed together until my dad's passing in 2016. They each had their skill set. My dad was really quiet and he was super smart. My mom was not as smart as my dad, but she had an amazing amount of personality and ego, and it just drove me to where I think I'm at today. And I was very fortunate. So I don't know what it's like to not have that. However, I do know of people who don't have that, who didn't grow up with that, and they're very successful. They're growing up and you can see them, they pull them up from their bootstrap. And I don't know exactly what wires them other than pride and a belief in themselves. I think I have a duty to be successful for my parents, but those people, I think, develop the duty to be successful for themselves and change their situation. And as I see that, it inspires the shit out of me. It really does. I see that. And I've been given a lot of, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up in a blue collar household, but I had some gifts. I had some advantages, and I have a duty to be successful for them in addition to myself. And as I mentioned before, for the man I'm going to become 10 years from now, just like the guy that started this business, way back when was an inspiration for me. I look at it like, man, what did he go through? And adversity changes you, man. I've been through a divorce, and I hate that. I hate that happened. It shouldn't have happened, and those kind of things. But you pick yourself up from the bootstrap, and you learn to life continues, and you learn that you've got to rely on yourself, and you're accountable to yourself. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't work for you. And you just need to make sure that you live your life towards your goals, your beliefs, your standards, and not somebody else's.
Who is somebody that you really inspired you back in the day that kind of lit the fire under your ass? Was there somebody that was like, wow, this person, was like the person that kind of inspired you to level up? Or was there some sort of mentor in the beginning, or was it Grant, or was it Gary Vee, or what?
I think in the very beginning, it was the guy that ran the real estate club.
Okay.
He had done a lot. He challenged everybody and said, okay, all of y'all that just paid me a bunch of money, 80% of you will do nothing with it. 20 of you, I'll know you in 5 years. 80 of you, I won't know. And it was a lot of money to me. It was a $10,000 check that I wrote to that education club. And this is back in 2007. And I remember, wow, that was quite a bit of money to me. And I'm like, I am not going to fail. I'm not going to write this check and forget about it. I'm going to come to all the investor events I can, and I immerse myself in it. But I also wanted to prove to him that I wasn't going to be part of that 80. And it's really interesting because that guy had this attitude of you don't exist until you win an award. And it fueled me to win awards. It fueled me. And it wasn't only until then when I got his attention, you know, when he started recognizing me. And then before long, I was like, you know, the show pony of the group, you know, and our company was very quiet. You know, we won our awards. I got a little stage time, but I really I didn't look for it. I wouldn't say no, but I didn't go ask for it, you know. And what's happened now is that our company just continues to win awards. And now, as I learned from Gary and from Grant, you got to tell a story, right? Gary says you got to tell that story, and you become a storytelling company first before you're a property management company. Grant's thing is you got to be a sales company first before you become a property management company. So I've merged the two together today. And I really believe I've coined a phrase I think is really important. Everybody has a brand. Some are just more known than others, you know, and I've learned that. And as we've done that, we've been able to grow as a company. So first mentor was the guy that ran the real estate club. The second mentor and the third mentor were Gary and Grant, you know, and just watching what they've done, especially Grant right now. I love what he's doing because we're now in the same space. He was a sales guy. And now he's discovered real estate, and everybody's probably listening to you and knows who I'm talking about. And it probably only associates him with real estate investing. But 5 years ago, he was nothing but sales motivation and sales. 10 years before that, he was in the automotive industry. So he keeps, like Madonna, he keeps reinventing himself and he becomes somebody different, right? And so those are real motivations for me today.
He's a marketing absolute machine too. Like he's
the Albert Einstein of this stuff.
So do you find it difficult, or do you recommend people, you know, pick one or two mentors, because a lot of them overlap? Some of them, it can be confusing, right? Some, you know, there's different salespeople, there's different, you know, inspirational people, different people in the different categories. But I feel that if you follow everybody, or listen to everybody, then you get confused.
You have to be willing to change and evolve, right? Because I discovered that first mentor back in 2007, and it wasn't before long. Now I've outgrown him, you know, and I'm not even in the club anymore, you know, and I got all that. And I've outgrown that particular mentor for a long time. And it happened when he started questioning, why are you listening to Gary and Grant? Well, who are they? Right. And so I discovered Gary. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Right. A little bit of jealousy because they weren't doing what he was doing. Right. He didn't learn that. He came from he's 20 years older than I am. Right. So I think you have to be constantly revolving the mentorship that you get, and you become innovative. Right. Because what works over here can become innovative in another field, another area. Right. In my field, there's very few people that are telling their story and their brand like we are. Grant Cardone is probably the only guy that I can really see on a big stage that I see on LinkedIn or I see him on Instagram, you know. And so my goal is to get to that level. My goal is to get him to pick up the phone and say, hey, I've been watching your stuff, you know, and he knows who I am. We've met a couple of times, but I want to know him a little bit differently. I want him to pick up the phone and give me a call. And that's my aspiration. So I think mentorship, you have to aspire to want to be like somebody, and eventually you're going to catch them. You are, because you just come from a different generational gap. And then also, you know, unless you're constantly trying to learn, they stop the race, you know, and you eventually catch them, you know.
And you got to be omnipresent too. There's a lot of successful people out there, but nobody knows who they are.
You know, everybody has a brand. Some are just more known than others, right? So
it's crazy. It
is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, you could tell me right now about somebody that you like and you follow, and I may not know who they are. And 2 years from now, I'm like, oh my God, where's this guy been? Yeah. You know, that kind of thing. So you just have to keep your ears open and listen to people that are where you want to be, and see how you can adopt what they do and bring it into your life.
Where do you see?
Never ending. It's never ending.
Where do you see your biggest challenge or adversity that you go through now at growing your company, at becoming where you want to be, that level? You know, where is that challenge as you level up? And has that evolved from before, or as you've grown, have the problems kind of changed? You know, what does that look like on a daily basis?
The biggest issue I have today is how we handle the growth that's coming. And the reason why that's a problem is that I started mom and pop, kind of like that guy that buys that Subway franchise and works it every day. That's his new job. Is I'm the Subway franchise owner.
Yeah.
And I was like that. We bought one deal a year for the first several years. And there were smaller deals, which meant that I could control them. I could manipulate them. I could make more, I'd be more involved in the decision process. But what happened is that I handicapped my staff. I didn't let them make the decisions on their own because I was micromanaging the situation. And now as the table has changed a little bit in my world where we want more growth, some of them aren't ready for that growth. Some of them have left our company, sadly, because they can't keep up with the changing pace of our company. So if I had known then where we would be today, it would be a very different story. I would have gotten much bigger. Instead of buying that 118 unit deal in my first deal, it would have been a 218 unit deal or a 318 unit deal. But I didn't believe in myself to think that I could do it. I didn't think that I could raise the equity. I didn't think I could run it, even though I had a track record of working that with some other people before. I just didn't think that that was the path I was on. And as I grow now, we're upgrading staff. We're upgrading teams. We're recruiting people from the blue chips, right? People that I'm recruiting now, anybody would want to have. And that's when you know you have right people, is if the people that are working for you, if they could go work anywhere other than your place, And so that's the thing right now, is that we're having to retrain, maybe reposition people around, bring in outside talent. And you have to get used to their culture, and you have to get used to what they're doing and adopt it and try to morph it into what we're doing here at Rockstar. But that's been our challenges, is just changing the mom and pop way of doing things and evolving into a more sophisticated culture.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's one specific question about real estate that I want to ask you that Grant Cardone talks about, but I'd love if you could share it with the audience about why is it important, because he says don't buy a house, right? I know this is I would just love to hear your take on that. Why is buying a house a bad idea versus buying apartments? Or, can you explain that to the audience?
There's a lot of reasons to that. And Grant's named out most of them. I'm a multimillionaire. I'm very fortunate. I picked the right industry. I did it the right way. I worked hard. I built myself into where I'm at today. I choose not to own a house. I choose to rent where I'm at. Just like Grant was saying, I want to be able to be mobile. I want to be able to go where I want to go. But what happened is that I bought my first house in 2002, and I put $15,000 down for my down payment, and it was the only $15,000 I had. I didn't even have any money left to pay for blinds on my house. I didn't have any money left to pay for grass to put in my new backyard, because when you buy a brand new construction, it's just dirt, right? I made the mistake of putting everything I had into that house. What if I just continue to, because maybe I wasn't ready for the house. I did it because I thought that's what was expected. I was newly married. My wife and I were under 30, and we followed what everybody else said you're supposed to do, right? Go to school, get good grades, get married, buy a house. As I look on it now, I would have been better off renting and taking that money, that down payment money, and figuring out how I can buy a rent house or get into some sort of investing so that money could make me money. Because in the event that you lose your job, if you have a W-2 job, I lose my job, I cannot access that equity in my house because they won't loan you money on that house if you don't have a job. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. You could have $100,000 of equity in that house. You can't tap it if you don't have a job.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. So the game's fueled against it. People want to buy you a house, who want you to own a house, are realtors, right? Then you got property taxes. In the area that I was in, the property tax was higher than the actual appreciation of the house every year. My property tax was like 4.25%, 4.5%. That housing in that area, because there was so much land out in Katy, which is far west Houston, appreciated by 1.5, 2 points. So technically, you're losing money by buying the house. Later, when I bought a future house, I bought it inside the loop, right in prime central Houston, a well-to-do area. Property tax is closer to 2.25, 2.5, but appreciation is closer to 4 to 5% every year. So you're actually making money on that house after taxes and insurance. So if you were to understand that you're losing money on an investment like that, why would you put money into it? It's a lack
Sure.
of awareness and a lack of education. You
Mhm.
think you need a house, but in reality, you know what? You get a job on the other side of town. What happens? Right now, we're getting an office, our first office. I'm so excited, right? We're shaking out the mom and pop, right? This office, I'm trying to make it centrally located in town,
Yeah.
right? But if I picked a house by where my work was on this part, but then I got a new job on the other side of town, what then? Now I'm facing 45 minutes of traffic. But
Yeah.
what if you were renting? You could just, all right, well, at least it'll be up in 3 months, 6 months. I'm moving. I went to a situation where I was living downtown. I had a high rise I was living at, and I really wanted to live downtown. And I moved there, and I realized that I was too far from my children. I was about 45 minutes with traffic away from my children. I didn't want to be like that. So when my lease was up, I moved to across the street from where my children live. It changed the quality of my life.
Yeah.
No longer was I in an hour and a half round trip to come pick him up and take him back to my place. I was 6-minute round trip. So those are some of the things that Grant talks to you about. Plus, and then there's no tax advantages really with owning a house. There's monster tax advantages with owning rental property. So those are just some of the things. I'm sure Grant's got like a long list of them.
Well,
those are the ones that stick out to me.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I bought a condo, but I'm living in it right now. But I want to move it out and move out and do Airbnb or something like that because I want to generate that cash flow. And it's interesting to hear that because I'm sitting here like not making any money off my place when I could be.
Right. And how much equity did you put into it? 10%, 15%, 20%?
I can't remember.
Probably, right?
I put quite a bit.
Put a down payment.
But I put quite a bit down. Yeah.
Right.
Quite a bit down.
And it's stuck in there.
Yeah.
It's stuck until the day you sell it.
Well, and the fact that because I'm self-employed as well, and you have to be a certain amount of time self-employed.
Yeah.
That you to prove that you can. It's just that funny area right now,
It
because
is.
You have to show 2 years of of course, but it's
and then you have those condo fees.
Yeah.
Which can get you.
Yeah, right? The strata fees. Yeah, they're like, I think it's like $500 a month or something.
Right. I can tell you, and I'm not sure what part of the country are you in?
Vancouver, BC,
Vancouver,
Canada.
I've never paid. And when I was owning a house, we have an HOA fee, right? It's a yearly fee, and it's nowhere close to $500 a month. It would be closer to like $100 a month, right?
Yeah.
In the apartments that I've lived at, there's just one number every month, right? And so the thing with condo fees, they just go up and up and up and up and up. And so I'm a big believer to not invest in a condo. I'm a big believer you should rent everywhere you go. You should just
Fair enough.
Rent. Just like your car, right? You buy a car, it's an appreciating asset. So I lease my cars now. I need a ride. I want to have a nice car, but I lease it. And when I'm done with it, I give it back. It's the same thing with a rental property, a rent house or my apartment that I live at. When I'm done with it, I'm done. I move away. There was an issue where last night there was a heater issue. I picked up the phone. They called. They had somebody there in 15 minutes, and they fixed it and done. That's your house. Who are you going to call? Now you got to call a contractor. They got a fee they're going to charge you just for coming out. Plus, as you know, these guys, you don't know if they're trustworthy or not. They could screw you on whatever. It costs you to own that house or that condo if the maintenance isn't included. So again, there's a lot of reasons to rent.
Really interesting, man, because like a lot of people are taught different things, and I love hearing that because
I was taught the same way.
Yeah.
I learned this, right? We're wired, we're conditioned in a certain way. And when you discover real estate, it's like the Matrix, right? The red pill, the blue pill. And when you take that other pill that destroys your previous reality, you're like, wow, the whole world opens up. You got to get reconditioned.
Well, people are doing it out of fear too, right? They want to they feel like they own it, like it's theirs or some sort of weird thing that they need that thing to feel safe. I feel like that's what it comes down to.
It's the same way. It's the same reason why people go out and buy a more expensive car than what they need.
Yeah.
A car does the same thing. It gets you from point A to point B. Whether you got a Hyundai or you have a Lexus or a Cadillac or Mercedes, it's the same thing. You can pay for what you want depending on what you're at. I've noticed that people will overpay for a vehicle because it makes them feel better, right? Yeah. But what if they can control that emotion and save that extra payment, that extra $200, $300, $400 more a month, right? Because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever they're doing and putting that into your rent property, putting it into some sort of savings. I mean, gosh, we got to be reconditioned, and that's where mentorship comes from.
Yeah.
I didn't lose $1 in the stock market because my mentor said, if you're going to do real estate, take all your money out of the stock market. You can't control it. Some money manager up in something, somebody sneezes the wrong way, a coronavirus comes. It hasn't even impacted earnings yet, but because it might impact earnings, the value goes down.
Crazy.
Not in real estate. It doesn't go down. I control my real estate value. I move the needle on what on my investments based on how hard I work them.
Dude, awesome value, man.
I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, you got amazing energy too, bro. I can see why you're so successful and why your team loves you, man. Like you have that energy, that vibe, and I can really appreciate that because, I talk to a lot of people and you can just see why they're successful just in their energy and how they go about it and their spirit and their belief and their vision, man. So it's thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my honor to be on the show with you. Thank you for having me on there. And I just want to leave you with this. You're not born. You're born with the way you're born, right? What affects you affects you. Just take advantage of the gifts you do have. No, there's always going to be somebody better. There's always going to be somebody more advantageous. I didn't graduate top of my class, but I'm probably further along than some people in my class, right? And it's all about what you believe in yourself and you constantly reinventing yourself. I'm a much more confident man today than I ever was at any point in my life. And that's momentum. And when you find momentum and you get really good at something, it just carries and carries and carries. I hate when people are like, they quit a job and they start over because all you're doing, you're losing your place in line, right? You're not moving forward, right? And we have people who sometimes will quit with no notice, and like, where are you going? I don't know. I just know I can't work here. Like, okay, and then they didn't have a plan. Right. Yeah. And so you got to be really careful. If you keep momentum and you get really good at something, you can carry yourself to the next level and then the next level and then the next level. And you'll be shocked what you can do. But it all comes around having the right people around you. If you have people that are supportive and they want to help you win, it goes a long way.
I love it, man. I love it. Where can we find you? Where's the best place to check you out and connect with you?
Well, I'm on social media everywhere, right? So you can go to LinkedIn, find me at Robert Martinez, Facebook, Robert Martinez, and you can find me on Instagram at Apartment Rockstar. Awesome. So I've got a ton of free content there. There's a lot of I even have my own personal website called theapartmentrockstar.com, which is everything you want to know about multifamily investing.
That's great branding too. That's awesome, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Smart. All right, everybody, make sure to check out Robert. We'll have everything in the show notes for you. And this guy's a powerhouse, so watch out.
Hey, thanks so much.
My pleasure. Robert Martinez, everybody.